So we're going to be palpating the rotator cuff, and the first muscle I'm going to show you how to palpate is subscapularis. So subscapularis is going to originate from the subscapular fossa of the scapula, and then it's going to insert on the lesser tubercle of the humerus. So to palpate this muscle, we're going to flex our client's shoulder, and then we're going to cradle the shoulder when it's in that flexed position. Then we're going to find the lateral border of the scapula. I'm going to use my thumb to find the lateral border of the scapula, and once I find that, I'm going to sink in to the subscapular fossa with my thumb. And once I do that, I'm able to find the fibers of subscapularis. And I'm going to strum across them. If I need to go further in to get more of the fibers, I'm going to work with my client's shoulder, moving into more flexion, to get more fibers of the subscapularis. Right, the next muscle we're going to palpate is infraspinatus. If you remember, infraspinatus is going to originate from the infraspinous fossa, and then it's going to head over to the greater tubercle of the humerus. Infraspinatus is going to sit basically right through here. So this is going to be its general location. So to find that, what we want to do is we want to find some bony landmarks. We want to first find the spine of the scapula, which is right about here, because once we find the spine of the scapula, that tells us that inferior to it is going to be the infraspinous fossa. I also want to find the medial border of the scapula, which is right through here. So here's the spine of the scap, the medial border, and then I'm also going to come over and find the lateral border. So all through here is the infraspinous fossa. Infraspinatus, as it runs over to the greater tubercle, is going to have about 3 different fiber directions. So when you're palpating, you'll see that I'm moving my finger in slightly different angles to get all of the fibers. All right, so I'm going to start by palpating the fibers that are just underneath the spine of the scap. So I'm going to strum across. And I'm going to follow this muscle as it goes over to the greater tubercle. And it's going to go underneath the deltoid, because if you remember, deltoid is going to sit right here on the shoulder. Okay? I'm going to come back, drop down a little bit, strum across the fibers here. And then I'm going to get those lower fibers of infraspinatus. One thing that you can have your client do when you're palpating, if you're not sure you're on infraspinatus, is you can place your hand here and you can have them push up into your hand. Go ahead and push up. And as you do that, as you have them push up into your hand, so they're bringing their elbow into the palm of your hand, it will cause infraspinatus to contract. And then you know that you're on that muscle. So again, we've got these fibers that sit real close to the spine of the scap, drop down, and then we're going to come back one more time and get those lower fibers of infraspinatus. The next muscle we're going to palpate is Teres Minor. Teres Minor is going to originate from the superior half of the lateral border of the scapula. Then it's going to insert in to the greater tubercle of the humerus. So what I'm going to start off doing is finding the lateral border of the scapula. So here's the inferior angle, and here, as you see me strumming across, is the lateral border of the scapula. So I'm going to find the lateral border, basically divide it in half, and I know from that superior half is where Teres Minor should be originating from. Now, one thing that Teres Minor will do, one of its actions, is it's going to allow for external rotation of the shoulder. So to get the muscle to contract, what you're going to do is you're going to have your client swing their hand up towards their head. Okay, go ahead. And the reason you're going to have them do that is because Teres Minor is an external rotator of the shoulder. All right, so now I know I'm on Teres Minor. I'm going to strum across. I'm going to follow it over to the greater tubercle of the humerus. All right, so again, it's going to originate from superior half of the lateral border of the scap, and then it's going to head over to the greater tubercle of the humerus. All right, the next muscle we're going to palpate within the rotator cuff group is supraspinatus. Supraspinatus is going to originate from the supraspinous fossa, and then it's going to insert on the greater tubercle of the humerus. Supraspinatus is going to sit just above the spine of the scap. So it's always important to find the spine of the scap, which is here, because that lets you know that superior to it is the supraspinous fossa, where supraspinatus will originate from. So I'm going to find the spine of the scap, and then I'm going to sink my fingers into that supraspinous fossa, and I'm going to strum across the fibers of supraspinatus. Now as I follow it over to its insertion, I'm going to notice that this is the acromion process. And if you'll remember, the tendon of supraspinatus goes underneath the acromion process and then finally comes over to the greater tubercle of the humerus. If you're not sure that you're on supraspinatus, you can always have the muscle contract. So I'm going to place my thumb in the supraspinous fossa and place my other hand on my client's arm, and I'm going to have my client push into my hand. Go ahead, push out. And then I can feel supraspinatus contracting. Good, and relax. And then I know that I'm definitely on the muscle because supraspinatus is an abductor of the shoulder. So again, supraspinatus originates from the supraspinous fossa and will travel over to insert on the greater tubercle of the humerus.